peekaboo. It may be better to practice at doing this, but it's time for a watch list. 6 movies that I've watched recently that I think you'd enjoy, recommend, that I haven't heard other people really talking about. And, well, since I've been away for a while, let's make it 6 instead of the usual 5. Hi, my name's Chris Mohan, and I talk about movies on this channel and about underseen boutique Blu-ray releases of various bits. I have films from BFI, Second Sight, Criterion, Radiance, Warner Archive, and then another one that was a film that came out in cinemas last year. So let's start with the BFI disc. Recently, they put out a lot of stuff that I've been working my way through, and I thought I would pick a rather interesting one to go with here. This is The Music Lovers by our good old friend Ken Russell. And The Music Lovers tells it's a bit of a biography of Peter Ilyich Tchaikovsky, the Russian composer, famed for such things as Sleeping Beauty and the Swan Lake, the ballets, 1812 Overture, his Piano Concerto No. 1, it's one of my personal favourites. Lots of stuff that you may or may not recognise. And this kind of follows on with Russell's love of making biopics about tortured souls. So last year we had Gothic that came out that basically told the story of the weekend where Frankenstein was written with Mary Shelley and Lord Byron, and all of the glamorous people that were there and the weird and wonderful things that happened there. I didn't love it in first watch, and second watch, Ken Russell's ability to show stuff on screen and be different and be daring, it always kind of pays off. And in this one, it's much the same as we get. We've got Richard Chamberlain here as Tchaikovsky himself, and we've got a great performance from Glenda Jackson as his tortured wife in it. And in classic Ken Russell style, you could just tell a story of struggling composer who gets a benefactor who supports him through that time. All very interesting. But we get all this wrapped up in the tortured soul aspect. It plays an awful lot with and asks a lot of questions about how much his sexuality and his idea of conforming to fit in and how that would pay off in his music all sort of fit together. And it's as usual with Russell films, not like an easy watch, but it is something that was endlessly fascinating. Now, it sort of plays with Tchaikovsky's death as well. So there is one version of Tchaikovsky's death. This has a different one, and it even ended up on Wikipedia without giving credit to this film, which I thought was interesting in its own right. BFI disc, as usual, is an absolute cracker. My favourite extra out of this actually is where Ken Russell directs these kids in Jane Eyre. No budget, nothing to do, but getting performances out of these young kids, and we can see the show at the end. It's wonderful. Like it's not great quality or anything, but it gives you an insight into how the master works and how he worked with people. And as such, I thought it was a fantastic watch. So that is The Music Lovers from BFI, and I heartily recommend. Next up is the Second Sight release. One, make my way through all the old stuff that I bought over the past couple of years. Satin shrink wrap. God, it was terrible for buying special editions and kind of saying I'll get around that, save that for special occasion. Well, the special occasion for the moment is my eldest child, 16, is really developing a love for cinema, but especially for watching horror, especially because her friends don't seem to like any horror, and she seems to save that for watching with me. She have some hits, some misses as we went along. Some of the older stuff that I thought was very good that she'd love, she hasn't really gravitated to. And this one she was a bit mixed on, although it did generate a lot of conversation. This is Lake Mungo, first time watch for me, and is an Australian found footage horror movie which sort of explores the death of a young woman in a lake, supposedly drowned, but who keeps on appearing back in the familial home. And in some ways it's a bit cheesy because it sort of does this thing with close-ups and going in and looking at photos and then seeing close-ups and then seeing images of her appearing in it over and over again. And it could be construed as a bit cheesy, like I say, but it sort of works in some way because often it's so subtly done. It's not until you get right up that you kind of see, oh, there it is. There is also some sort of sensational stuff in it, which I think comes across as humorous in a way because of the style of the shot. But I think all in all, what we get is a really interesting use of theatrical performers playing something off as sort of realistic, but in that mockumentary sense. And if you didn't know that it wasn't real, you might have some sort of questions of that, like if you didn't know any of the reputation of it. I think it's a really ingenious kind of way of making a film with no budget, or sorry, certainly a lower budget, using low quality camera footage, even from old cell phones, in a way that helps with the storytelling. And I was suitably impressed with Lake Mungo, I have to say. Like I say, my eldest daughter we'd watched Hereditary, which she just thought was utterly fantastic. So maybe this one being up next, kind of in comparison, for it didn't quite hit as much. But while she was sort of not so interested in some parts, it didn't hold her enthusiasm the whole way through. It did generate a lot of conversation and a lot of ideas, and especially about the filmmaking that went within, as usual. A gorgeous release, full of exploration afterwards. I haven't got reading the booklet yet, but I thoroughly intend to, because I always do like the essays that are contained within these. Next up is a Criterion release, another recent one as well, and it's All That Money Can Buy from 1941, I believe. Yes, 1941, also known as The Devil vs. Daniel Webster. Post-Depression era America, and farmers are down the luck. We've got a farmer here who's down in his luck, and is sort of trapped in this thing of he just wants a way out of it. So he kind of talks to the air and says, God, I'd sell my soul to the devil, essentially, for some money, for 2 cents. And he gets the opportunity, basically for luck, for a change in his luck. And he trades off and gets the change in his luck for that. And it's the usual story. What does it cost you? What is this deal going to give you? And that's really what the film explores, as we have our main character from a nice, happy, he lives with his wife, lives with his mother in kind of very rural America, kind of down their luck, and people are all finding it tough, and his luck is the one that turns around. Sideline to that, there is a guy called Daniel Webster, who is a senator, governor, one of those political figures within America who people see as a future president, who seems to be tortured by the same kind of devil, tempting him all the time, tempting him with ideas, but he has ideas about how to fix America. He's seen as a great hope for the farmer, for the common man. And, well, this all plays out. Don't want to go too much into it, but again, a rather wonderful restoration and presentation from Criterion here. And another example of why, Criterion are held in such high esteem, presenting this beautiful film well, and then surrounding it with, a couple of extras. There's not an absolute ton on this, but certainly enough to dig into afterwards, and I was thoroughly satisfied. Next up, we're going to go for Fury from Warner Archive. This one has got our good old friend Spencer Tracy, and then the female actress Sylvia Sidney. I did not know that. Essentially, we have Spencer Tracy as a guy who has found a sweetheart, wants to go marry her, get away, but he's always done things entirely straight. He's done things entirely right, and he goes to set off to meet his love, and he leaves in his wake behind him people trying to take advantage, selling liquor, prohibition times, all that kind of stuff. People trying, a bit like the previous movie, need to make a bit of money, and he's basically telling everybody, you've got to play it straight. So you have that set against the fact that when he's on his travels, he gets arrested for a crime that he did not commit. And while it's under investigation and he's doing it, mob justice, because of the nature of the crime, basically says he must be guilty, as things start getting reported in the media and people start talking. And it's this idea of mob justice versus what's right, and then how it affects our character who essentially has always done the right thing and who essentially just wants a simple, clear life. And I'll have to leave it there because I've told you half of the movie as it is. It's not a very long movie as it is. It's quite simple in its own right, but again, a very enjoyable, rompy kind of story that has some things to say about mob justice, and actually not just about mob justice, but about what we should do about mob justice and whether it's right, or at the end about what people will hold their hands up and say I was right or wrong, all of that kind of stuff. Interesting movie, and it's definitely one to tuck your tuck your teeth into, or set the appetite for. Next up is a great one. I've heard, actually, I'd tell a lie, this one I've heard a few people talking about, and with good reason. This is a recent Radiance release, and this is Hal Ashby's debut film. It is The Landlord, with lovely Beau Bridges here on the front. Landlord tells the story of a upper class white 29-year-old boy who is making a brush to be rid of the influence of his rather ridiculous family, and he buys a tenement in New York in a black area. So it's full of black tenants, most of whom have never paid rent in it, etc. And he's going to come very well meaning, and well, he's basically looking them all to move out so that he can convert the tenement into his own place and kind of do it up and make it pretty. But he doesn't want to do it by forcing people out. He wants it to happen naturally, and it sort of has this conversation about naive white guy from upper class area viewing the world through how the other half lives, so to speak. And this is a film from 1970, I believe. Not long after Guess Who's Come to Dinner. It's one of the things that's referenced in the extras about this, and how it treats this wholly differently. It's actually unbelievable how subtle some of this was. It was written by Bill Gunn, and he puts together an amazing script that's beautifully directed by Ashby, with that kind of light touch that Ashby often has, and has great performances. Beau Bridges, Lee Grant, who I believe was Oscar nominated for it, Lou Gossett Jr., Pearl Bailey. This incredible cast the whole way across, and it has real subtlety in it. And while it sort of resolves somewhat predictably, it is an examination of the ridiculousness against the poverty. Lee Grant's character, Beau Bridges' mum, it's such a great performance and so well written and so well thought out that I think it really bears examination. I think this is a film that I actually will revisit many times. This disc also has some absolutely brilliant special features, some conversations with Beau Bridges, conversations with Lee Grant herself, but the real jewel is the conversation with Norman Jewison, who was the producer of it and a very good friend, director of In the Heat of the Night, etc., Fiddle on the Roof, etc. And he talks about his relationship and friendship with Hal Ashby, and about Hal Ashby's succumbing to cancer, and the relationship they had towards the end. In fact, Beau Bridges talks about it a bit as well, but it was so touching. Like, Norman Jewison's of a good age himself in this, and it is a very touching conversation, and nearly brought a tear to my own eye. So that's The Landlord. And the last one, the little bonus one I'm going to talk to, is about a film that came out last year. Very, as it says here, wise and charming, altogether irresistible. This is Lunyanya, Yak in the Classroom. I loved Lunyanya, Yak in the Classroom. It's such a treat. It tells the story of a young man who trains to be a teacher, but he's trained to be a teacher so that he can escape Bhutan, I think it is where he lives, and move to Australia. He wants to play guitar, live in the city in Bhutan, but as part of his training and to pay back, he has to accept a posting somewhere to use his teaching for a while before he can do that. And he gets posted to a very remote village on top of a mountain that has a rotation, and it's as far away from what he wants, which is city life and all that kind of stuff, and he really doesn't want to do it. He is very much put out. He's got that exuberance of youth that says, I don't want to do this, don't want to do this. But when he gets up there through the long hikes and people come and meet him, and he arrives there, he finds a society that thinks of the teacher and of education in a completely different way than his own society, you know, civilization, if you want, and it challenges him. Now, it may be a bit schmaltzy, it's a bit melodramatic, it's all those things, but those are all things that I really like in cinema, and there are plenty of movies that'll make me think and look at, you know, bigger issues for sure. And then there are ones that you can sit on and be touched by and be moved by and live vicariously through other people. I just Lunati Yak in the Classroom was just a wonderful little exploration of male hubris, especially when you're young, and how we need to be challenged in those feelings and experience life through other people's eyes. And that is my watch list for this week. I hope you've found something to get tucked into there. A recommendation that you can take on board. What have you been watching? Let me know. I always take plenty of recommendations from yourselves. I hope everybody's keeping well, and I'll speak to you again soon. Take care. All the best.